Hey guys, it's John and Shannon. We are here talking about our debt revolution.
So today we're going to be talking about a major paradigm shift that has happened in our lives. Guys, we have so much debt. It's probably going to blow your mind. And we have decided to finally embrace Dave Ramsey. So we...
Not physically.
Not physically. I mean, if I could. But
no.
I read Dave Ramsey probably 10 years ago at this point. And I read it in the context of reading a bunch of other personal finance books. And I took a couple of things away from it. But one thing I didn't take away from it was a aversion to debt. And at this point, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
So the amount of debt that we have is almost insane. I think by many metrics. If you look at our previous videos in this series, you'll see how we acquired the debt. But just to give you a big fat number, it's $2.5 million as of now, which is October 2019.
So this is a slide from our net worth updates where you can see that just between May and September of 2019, we increased our debt by $510,000. You guys, these numbers are crazy. We put $53,000 more on credit cards, and we bought a new and bigger home for $222,000. Like, I'm about to cry just even talking about it because it's like so insane and astronomical. So of our $2.5 million of debt, $825,000 is personal debt, by which I mean student loans, houses, credit cards, things like that. And of that, $330,000 is credit cards and student loans.
So those are personal debt. Here is distinguished from I would say business debt. So the reason why we're talking about personal debt and business debt is that a big component of our debt and also our assets are investment properties. So all of the investment properties that we have, I think except for one property, we have mortgages on. And we've done that very intentionally. Our investment philosophy, in as much as we had a financial philosophy coming out of college, it was very much informed by investing in real estate. So our journey is that in 2014 we bought our first house. It was a 2-family house in New Jersey, and since then we've bought a bunch more. I think we're up to in the several dozen range at this point of all buy and hold long-term investment properties. But all those properties have debt on them. Some of them we own outright, like just the two of us. Some of them we own with investors, with partners in different funds and different all sorts of arrangements. But we're including that debt as part of our debt because at the end of the day, it's money that we're personally guaranteeing, more or less. We could get rid of it by selling the house. And in many cases, the value of the house, or I would say in all cases, the value of the house far exceeds the debt on the house. Also, all these properties make us a lot of money per month, which is why we're okay having the debt on them. But so depending on your, shall we say, strictness about debt, we're either $2.5 million in debt, including the investment properties, or we're slightly less in debt, more like about $800,000 in debt if you exclude those, but do include our primary residence, our student loans, and our credit cards. So however way you cut it, it's a lot.
We're in a lot of debt, whatever way you cut it. But we're going to focus on the $825,000 of personal debt. So to paint a full and complete and accurate picture, life is not so bad. You might be thinking, oh my, these kids, like this is crazy, and you probably are. But we also have $3.2 million in assets. So that's also a lot. I mean, that's because of the investment properties.
Yeah, so that's the counter of the debt for the investment properties is, if you've watched our previous videos, you'll understand that a lot of our net worth, a lot of our positive assets are in our investment properties. So these properties that we have debt on are probably oftentimes worth a fair amount more than the debt that we have on them. That results in a positive net worth of about $800,000. So
we're not stupid. Like, these are all some of the books that we've read on personal finance. We understand money to an extent. We are focused on money to a large extent. And when we graduated from college with 300 grand in student loans and credit card debt and every other type of debt, we sort of wisened up. That's the first time I read Dave Ramsey. I also read all these other books around that time. And we made some strategic decisions starting around that time, which you guys have been tracking in our net worth journeys. But those strategic decisions did not involve a fear of leverage. In fact, they involved a warm and fuzzy embrace of leverage. Snuggling up to Snally May.
I think that the decision that we made at the time coming out of college was that, so the student loans that we had are all in Shannon's name. I was very fortunate that I got a lot of financial aid when I went to college. And then my parents had set up a college fund for me that I didn't have to use in college, but did use in law school. So I graduated without any real debt. You graduated with about $250,000 of debt or something like that.
Which capitalized
to $300,000. However, fortunately, we were able to refinance that pretty soon after at a pretty low interest rate, like something I think in the 5 or 6% range at the time. We've actually since refinanced it to something more like 4 or 4.5%. But the thinking was, well, that's really low relative to, say, credit card debt or whatever. And maybe we could make, or not maybe, but certainly we could make more than that if we're investing that money in something else, like the stock market, or in our case, in real estate. So we thought, okay, we won't repay back Shannon's student loan debt, our student loan debt. Instead, we'll invest in real estate and we'll make so much more than the interest on the debt that will have a sort of positive, result of it. And of course, that also led to other things like, okay, then we'll buy our own house, which is definitely not business debt. It's like our own, personal debt for our primary residence. We'll borrow money on credit cards to fund some of the purchases that we're making in real estate because
at like 0%.
Right, a balance transfer, 0% promotional offers, whatever, because we wanted to have the liquidity to invest in real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So I think we should just pause here and say, in terms of our relationship and where we stood on these things, I think I've always been a little bit more conservative on these things. I was really hesitant to take out student loans for college. I think you convinced me that it would be a better idea because I eventually would be able to make more money. That was like a really hard decision for us to make at the outset. And then when I got out of school, I really, really, really wanted to pay everything down quickly. I didn't want to buy real estate, but you sat me down with like a bunch of spreadsheets and we did the math, and eventually I came on board with it. And ultimately, I'm actually glad that I did, because I think that if we could probably go back and do a case study if we had thrown all of our money at my debt, but I don't think that we would have at age 34 a $700,000 net worth.
Well, I think a lot of times, like in the Dave Ramsey community, I guess, you hear a lot of stories maybe like ours, but kind of the end of the story is that, I incurred $300,000 of student loans and I make like $70,000 a year. That's actually not the case for us. So Shannon incurred a lot of debt and student loans, but she's a lawyer and she makes a very, very, very nice salary relative to, I think, most people that work. So whatever you want to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, to give you some guidance, the starting salary for a big law attorney in New York City is now $190,000 base, plus you get 50 or 60 grand as a bonus. And so it's only gone up.
You've been there for 6 years.
I've been there for 6 years. And so
you can just sort of figure out where that goes, and then I make money too. So it's, whatever you want to say about student debt, I don't want to get into that conversation, but at least in terms of the narrative about us taking student loan, us going into debt to get an education and then seeing what happened, we are making a lot more money with those degrees than we could, I think, without those degrees. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is, that Shannon alluded to, with the investment properties, we certainly are doing well just from a cash flow and equity perspective with a lot of our properties. Obviously, the real estate market is variable like every market. So right now we're at a high. I fully anticipate that in 1 to 4 years we'll be at another low or on the downtrend, and you'll probably see our net worth decrease with that because our debts are going to stay the same on the mortgages, but the value of the property is going to go down. But that's kind of the nature of investing, and we've accepted that. And this is all not to say like these are the things that you should do to follow us, but these are just explaining our thought process for the past 6 or 7 years when we were considering how we wanted to structure our financial lives.
So I would describe that's like the school and the real estate as not as stupid debts because there's a rationale for them. You can at least construct a narrative in your mind where it's like, okay, it was probably worth it for Shannon to go to Yale. Okay, it was probably worth it for you to take advantage of historically rock bottom real estate prices and historically low interest rates and then be able to catch that upturn. We also have
which we did. So,
plain old stupid debts. So we did stupid things like play around with credit cards, even at 0%. Like sometimes you get caught where it shoots back up to 16 or 18%.
No, like 22%.
You know, or 22%, and then you have to like rapidly pay it down. We did things like buy a brand new car, which even if it was, we bought it at 0.5% or something like that, which is what we did back when we bought it. I wouldn't do that again. It wasn't worth it. We should have just bought a used car. We should have saved up. We should have bought a used car. And I mean, we've made plenty of mistakes along the way. But this is our story, and we're trying to share it in the hopes that it might help somebody.
If you're curious about that, we have a whole video series that we have been alluding to about how we got from point A to where we are right now. And we'll talk a little bit more too about some of the strategies that we did, good and bad, in a different video. Like we lived in a basement for about 2 years. We lived with a bunch of roommates for several years. So we've done all sorts of crazy things for better or for worse, all in the hopes of being a little bit more financially secure. So
let's talk about the aha moment. When did we decide to embrace the Dave Ramsey philosophy on debt is bad and we need to act like this is a pants on fire emergency? So for us, it came around the same time as we figured out that I am pregnant. So I'm currently pregnant. We're due in about 6 months.
Early May.
We're so excited, and
we have videos on that too if you want to check it out, but it's been
it's been so emotional and so exciting. But I think that the prospect of bringing a new little person who's going to depend on us into the world is making both John and I feel a lot more conservative with our money. I mean, how do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's given a different perspective on our finances, because before it was just the two of us and we kind of do whatever we wanted, and now it's going to be the three of us, and we're hoping to have a bigger family. So it's a little bit of a we had a really tough year in 2019 too, financially, for all sorts of different reasons. We had one of our houses had a fire. That's turned into a big nightmare for all sorts of reasons that are beyond the scope of this video, but we're still figuring that out. It's now been about 7 months. Shannon switched jobs a little bit unexpectedly and wasn't working for part of the year. That was a little bit weird.
In 2018, I had a really bad injury that took me out for a while.
Really bad knee injury. That was really tough. We had a lot of, I started some new businesses and some new companies that consumed a lot of my time, but weren't really initially very profitable to me, which was a little bit unexpected. All sorts of things happened in that realm. So I think that, combined with about to be having a baby, was sort of like, okay, we need to really kind of take control, even just mentally, if not really doing anything, although we have done stuff, but just mentally take control and sort of figure out where we're at. I think that was a big impetus.
Yeah, absolutely. So around this time, I started reading again my personal finance books and things like that. And we'd always been focused on it, but like we said, we'd been in the debt embracers strategy and the slow pay strategy and focusing on investments. And around this time, I started listening to the Dave Ramsey show on his YouTube channel that captures his radio show snippets. And I listened again to the Total Money Makeover and Financial Peace. And for whatever reason, I was just ready for it this time. I didn't find him as abrasive and, like demeaning. And I didn't think the way that we thought, I think at the beginning, that we were smarter than this. We could maneuver in such a way that some debt could be good and we would do better than the interest rate on the debt, and we would figure it out.
I think the big observation, and it's a little bit informed by some of our other life journeys. So we lost a bunch of weight. If you followed our channel, you know that. And we did that by switching to a vegetarian diet. And for a long time, I've been really skeptical of this, kind of thinking like, oh, I know better because like men are supposed to be carnivores and like all sorts of stuff, and like human beings evolved through this and that. And then at some point I just sort of said, well, why don't I try it? And then I lost 100 pounds and I've never been healthier and I feel great. The same thing was true, I think, with the debt stuff. With Dave Ramsey initially, I was like, well, it's for people that aren't like me because I'm smart enough and I know that I can, figure out, even if I have this debt, I'll make more money by investing the money that way, whatever else. And so it really hit me when Dave talked about the human psyche and that component of it. Because on paper, maybe for sure, if you're paying 4% an interest rate on your debt and you're making 8% somewhere else, great, do that all day long, you make 4%. But in reality, how human beings act, that's a little bit different. So that's similar to me as this dietary change and exercise change that I've done in my life, where it was like, oh yeah, I can figure it out, I'm smarter than that. And then I actually did it and it worked. So it's like, okay, well maybe I'm not. So maybe I should try something else too, financially.
Yeah, I think I looked at it through the same lens of the diet. We became vegetarians, and then we adopted a program called Bright Line Eating, which has just like these strict lines around food, which has just, again, like catapulted us more on our weight loss journey. And that program actually has a very similar philosophy. It's like, it says, take the burden off of willpower, and humans are deeply flawed.
It's about human nature.
And we will make like bad decisions. So actually just giving yourself some strict rules can be a very helpful thing for dieting. I felt the exact same way about that. So
if you're a Dave Ramsey fan and you want to lose weight, check out Bright Line Eating.
And you can see we'll link our other videos on that. But here it is, you guys. So this was kind of the crystallization of our aha moment. First of all, we became receptive to the idea that, hey, maybe we're not the geniuses that we think we are, and maybe we don't know best, and hey, we have a little one on the way. We should probably start being big kids and think responsibly and conservatively about money. And then the real aha moment for me came when I sat down with a good old Excel spreadsheet and started thinking about, what's my plan? How do I get rid of this debt that's hanging over my head? And what we decided was, we're going to focus on the $825,000 that we have in personal debt. So we're going to put aside the investment properties for now, which is the 1 point something million debt. And we are going to, because those actually way outweigh the value, the debt, the assets way outweigh the debt liabilities on those, and they produce a ton of income every month. So we're going to set those aside for now, and we're going to focus on paying down almost $1 million, $825,000 in our personal debt. How short of a time can we do it in if we get zealous, intense, and try our hardest to do this? And we determined that we can do it in 4.6 years. And here is our plan to do it. We're going to have to pay down $180,000 per year. It's a lot, but I think the principles that we're going to talk about as we go on this journey, even at our high incomes, are going to be applicable to anybody, regardless of where you fall in terms of the scale of these numbers.
So the first goal is to pay off, I think, the most egregious debt, which is the credit card debt. We're going to pay off the entirety of that, we think, by December. So right now, as the filming of this, it's the beginning of November. We've actually made a lot of progress, and go back and watch our other videos in the series to talk about that. But we're going to pay down about $60,000 that we have remaining in December 2019. I think that is a great goal, maybe a little bit ambitious, but I think we can do it. The second goal is to pay $75,000 of our mortgage on our primary house, our primary residence, by June 2020. And so the reason why we're doing this is because right now we have less than 20% equity in our current house. And as a result, we have to pay something called PMI, or private mortgage insurance. And that really sucks, because it's just like an added fee every month that we have to pay on top of the principal and interest and taxes and all that sort of stuff. Pretty easy to get rid of that. You have to have 20% equity in your home, so relative to the value of your home. That can be done two ways with most banks. One is just by paying down your mortgage such that you have 20% equity in your home. Another way is by refinancing your house, getting a new appraisal and all that sort of stuff. We don't want to refinance our house because we like our interest rate, and we don't want to keep doing that anymore. We've done it in the past. So we're just going to pay down the amount of money that we need, which is $75,000. We think that we can do that by June 2020. You can look at some of our numbers and see how we're going to do that, but I think that would be awesome. Then we're not going to have to pay PMI, which is going to save us about $400 a month or something like that. It's a tremendous amount of money, so we're really excited.
Really excited about that. The next thing that we're gonna strive to do is to pay off
This
$245,000,
is the big one.
the balance on my student loans by June of 2023. So we're talking right now, it's November of 2019. So we're talking about like 4 years. We want to pay that down as fast as we can. I'm going to change my payment plan to be on a 5-year payment plan, and we're going to try to do it early.
So just not to interrupt you, but just to talk about that, we have a great situation where we refinanced our student loans, but we're actually able to change the payment terms on the loans. So right now we think we have a 15-year payment plan, but we're going to change it to a 5-year payment plan, which also comes with an interest rate change, I think, right?
Yeah, it's going to go down. Our interest rate is going to
So,
go down when we do that.
Even for the small amount of time, that'll save us money. Yeah.
And the interest rates are already super low. I highly recommend, if you have a massive amount of student debt, refinancing with First Republic, and I'll actually leave a link for it for you guys in the description.
No, I think you have to be in New York, but I'm not sure.
No, I just think you have to be like a fairly high income earner in a major city in the United States, and you have to have like a pretty heavy drop. But the interest rates are crazy low, and they actually are going to pay me 5% of the balance, or I think it's 1% of the balance, but it's going to end up being $5,000 if I pay it off in 5 years.
Like a bonus.
Like a bonus. They incentivize you to pay it faster. So that's part of the calculus here. Our student, my student loans and our mortgage are around the same interest rate. So, but we're going to focus. The student loan is a smaller debt, so that goes in line with the baby steps of paying things down in the order of smallest to largest, which I find incredibly motivating as you start to knock things out. And it also works out that'll help us hit that bonus.
The last thing, which is the really big goal, is going to be to pay off the mortgage on our primary residence. So it's going to be about $395,000. We'll have paid that a little bit over. We're going to pay a little bit first to get out of PMI, and then we'll be paying, kind of the normal monthly payments for the 30-year fixed mortgage over time. But once we pay off the student loans, we're going to really aggressively pay that down. That'll be almost $400,000, but we think we're going to be done by June 2024.
And in case it's not clear here, you guys, what you're seeing along the right of this screen is the spreadsheet that I sort of, in a frenzy, made when I was trying to figure out what would it take. How can we get there? How can we pay down this mountain of debt that's hanging over our heads? And when I saw that, I thought that we could reasonably pay down all of our consumer debts and our personal debt in a period of less than 5 years, I got so excited because I started thinking about our daughter who's due in May, and I started realizing that by the time that she enters kindergarten, we could be sitting on a fully owned house, and we could be totally free of credit card debt. We could be free of my student loans, and we're making, a couple $100,000 a year. Hopefully our salaries are going to continue to increase. By that time, we could be so financially set to be able to save in addition for her college and be able to put money away in the stock market, and we could just be so far on our path to FatFIRE.
And we'll still have all the investment properties that we had, which is a lot of assets for us. But it's really exciting to think that in about 4-ish years or whatever it is, we won't have to pay student loan payments, which are multi-$1,000s per month, and we won't have to pay the mortgage of our house, which is almost $4,000 per month. I mean, that's going to be something like $6,000 or $7,000 difference per month for us, which is insane. I mean, the things that we could do with having $6,000 or $7,000 more in terms of savings, in terms of whatever, I mean, that is crazy for us. So, and for anybody, I think, even if you're on a really high salary. So we're really excited about that.
And this still has me actually maxing out my 401k and doing some of the automated savings that we set out to before, including starting to save, like $25 a month for our daughters college, which we've been doing already. So to think that we can do this and be in such a good financial position by the time that she enters kindergarten is just so exciting to me, because it really frees up the universe. At that point, I don't know that we would have to work in these high stress, high demanding jobs if we didn't want to. I happen to love my job, which is great.
I do too.
But it would be so nice to have...
I love my job. I don't necessarily love your job. I love your job.
I mean,
I love your job if you love your job.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be so. It would just be so nice to not have to do it, right? To not be encumbered, to not have to go, like you feel like it gives you such a sense of power to be like, I could walk away from this at any time, and yet I choose to be here because I like it.
Right.
So we wanted to think a little bit too strategically about what is this going to take, because these are insane numbers. This is an insane goal. Like, I mean, it's going to be such an amazing and tremendous accomplishment if we achieve this. So we thought, well, let's think about what our behavior has been like previously and what has to change in order for us to get there.
So this is our debt graveyard. These are debts that we have killed or have died, I suppose. We've retired. And so if you take all of these debts and take the amount of time over which we repaid them back, we're averaging about $60,000 per year in paying back debt. So you can see our student loans decreased by about $50,000. We did pay about $150,000 in credit card debt over this full amount of time, although we still have credit card debt, which just goes to show how much credit card debt we've had. It's a little bit disingenuous because, whatever,
pay it
down, it goes back
pay it
up. Car loan, which we've now entirely paid off, which we're really happy about. We had a tax liability at one point. It was about 20 grand. I had a loan from my law firm that I had to pay back of about 10 grand. We had a family loan for about 25 grand. We're actually saying that we didn't pay back anything from our houses, even though we did pay back principal on all the houses that we live in, but we refinanced them a bunch of times and all sorts of stuff. So we're just kind of washing that out and saying that from now onward, we're going to be paying back down the principal of our houses. We're going to be living in this house, barring some sort of crazy emergency, for probably the next, very long period of time.
100 years.
And investment property debt is just pay down of principal on all of our investment properties, kind of pro rata, like relative to our ownership. But all that in summation is about $360,000 over 6 years. So if you divide that in, it's about $60,000. So
this is what we were paying on debt when we were taking a lackadaisical approach to debt, when we were slow paying the bare minimum.
We're also incurring more debt.
Yeah, so we're incurring more debt and we're slowly paying off $60,000 in debt. I mean, that's enough for a family to live on. That's crazy. So imagine what we're going to do when we fast pay it, right?
So we're going to have to triple that. But we think we can. And if you watch our video that is up on our channel or is about to be up on our channel about our debt payment over the last 2 months, you'll see that we've actually been doing it pretty successfully. I think we've actually paid more than this in the last month or two.
Not more than $180,000.
Not more than $180,000, but relative, like in the 2 months, I think we've paid.
We're doing good.
A lot.
So just to be clear, to hit our new goals, we are going to have to pay off $180,000 in debt per year for 4.6 years. So that's
all while siring a family.
All while siring a family. So we have to make and continue to make a lot of money. So this is not your Dave Ramsey couple of like an everyday couple. This is like Dave Ramsey on steroids. And
it's like much more debt, but a lot larger shovel.
Right. So, but I hope that, these numbers are so insane, and I realize that we are like in the top 0.000%, both in terms of our income and in terms of our debt, and like generally in terms of our educational background and stuff like that. So I understand that we are not like a particularly relatable couple, but I hope that you can get excited as like whether you scale this by 10 upwards and you're doing way better than us, I don't
know how you could scale by 10 upwards.
There are people who could be watching this and be like
10 people.
There are people in our network who are like looking at this and they're like, look at these peasants.
By 10?
There are people like that.
Maybe by 2.
Okay, but whether you scale it way upwards or you scale it way downwards and you're struggling, I think that the principles are the same, and I hope that you will be excited to come along with us on this journey, because I'm like shaking. I'm so excited. Like, I really, really want this. I really, you gonna help me do it?
Of course.
All right. I'm so excited.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'd love to hear your comments and thoughts about this journey. Dave Ramsey, FatFIRE, feedback on our what we've done before, what we're going to do in the future. Please subscribe if you'd like to see our future videos, because we're going to be doing updates basically every month about how we're progressing, and you can see If you're watching this and it's been 6 months or 12 months
and we haven't posted, please comment and be like, how are you guys doing? Because we are putting this out there into the universe to hold ourselves accountable.
But if you're watching this like 6 months or 12 months after we did it or whatever, you can look back and say, oh, you guys were so wrong or you guys were so right. So that'll be funny to see. But in the meantime, comment, subscribe, like the video, share it if you'd like, and we'll see you guys next time.
Until next time, do well and always make things better.